Now let's talk about a contour line drawing. And a contour line drawing is, of course, much slower than a gesture drawing, which tends to move a little bit faster and with broader strokes. A contour line drawing is looking very slowly at the exterior and interior edges of an object, right? So you're both looking all around the edge of it and sort of dipping in and capturing some of the surface quality. So I'm going to do a quick demo for a contour line drawing. For this one, I've sharpened an F pencil, which is sort of like between an HB and an H pencil. So F is right above an H pencil. You could use an HB, an H, or even a 2B if you wanted to for this drawing. I've sharpened the tip on it a little bit. And what I'm doing is I'm just choosing a starting point, which for me is the top pump of this face wash. And I'm just moving ever so slowly along the edge of the surface that I'm looking at. Sometimes I will lift my pencil off of the surface of the page, but generally I'm spending a lot of the time with my eye on the object in front of me. And I'm really trying to pay attention to the distance between things and where things are placed. But I'm mostly just really trying to coordinate that part of my mind that is looking at this object in front of me and the part of my mind that is communicating to my hand to tell it what to do. And I think this is such an amazingly interesting thing to start to pay attention to when you really slow down and notice the way all of these parts of you are coordinating to allow you to make a drawing. It's actually kind of trippy. So I'm just making my way slowly down this object and kind of noticing where things are hitting each other, noticing the angles of things. I'm thinking about all those little tips that my gesture drawing mind can help with, landmark points, and how to return to a place on an object. So even though I might not be making a gesture drawing for this particular drawing, my knowledge of what a gesture is and how it can help me draw and see is playing a role in how I am actually making this very drawing in front of me. So again, I'm moving really slowly, thinking about the size of things, the proportions of things, the angles of things. One thing that I recommend, I have to make all these drawings flat on the table in order to record them so that you can see what I'm doing. But my preference as a drawer is always to have this surface leaning up towards me. When you draw flat like this, you tend to distort what you're looking at. Things tend to get a little bit longer and bigger as they go further away from you, just because it's this trick of the eye. So, if you notice that happening, really try to angle your drawing board up so that you can get a better view of what you're actually drawing on the paper. So you can see that although I did, of course, look at the silhouette of this shape, I'm dipping in and getting all of these beautiful cross contours across the shape as well. And I could keep going. There'd be other little areas that I could distinguish a little bit more, kind of show the way that's lifting up like that. But that's a pretty good example of a cross contour drawing. of a contour drawing with a little bit of cross contour in there. Of course, if it was a real cross contour drawing, I would be drawing all of the different ways that a line would fall across the surface of this shape. If you want to play with that a little bit, you're welcome to as well. So once you've spent some time working on refreshing yourself on gesture drawing and on contour drawing, we're going to go ahead and combine them, because I think that's really the way that artists tend to use these lessons that we learn in drawing. So I've got my F pencil, that's kind of like a H pencil, sharpened, ready to go. I have my 3B and my B pencil also, in case I want something kind of in between them. And so what I'm going to do is combine the gesture and the contour line drawing. And this is what I'm going to ask you all to try to do as well. And of course, this is the last step. So let's go ahead and take the face wash bottle again. And we're just going to combine our techniques. So the first thing we're going to do is think about that light gesture drawing. I'm using a softer pencil, checking my landmark points on things. Again, starting with the spout just feels like the right place for me to start. And I'm going to drop a little plumb line down from there so that I can get a sense of how the spout has the neck of the bottle, right? And get a few little ellipses for the top of the bottle. And again, just kind of checking all those landmark points, a little bit of the negative space between things as well. Going down to the shoulders of my object. Again, landmark point from this corner to this corner, this corner to this corner. Really thinking about how things connect across the whole thing versus when I was working on just my contour line drawing and kind of letting my eyes slowly move across the surface. Gonna jump down to the base here. And I'm letting some of my knowledge about perspective come into play here. Thinking about the idea that if this is angled up here this way, with the left side being a little bit higher, the bottom and the right side being a little bit lower, that of course that's gonna fall, that same logic's gonna fall to the bottom as well. So kind of just throwing in a little bit of perspective into how my drawing is being constructed. And then bringing down to the base of the object, coming across to here. And I have what you could call like a pretty nice, quick sketch gesture drawing, right? So that is the first thing that we spent some time warming up on, right? And of course it could be finessed a little bit more. The next thing that I want us to start to do is start to think about bringing in some of our contour line qualities, right? So we have this map below here, and I'm gonna grab, I think I'll keep using my B pencil actually for now. I'm gonna just give it a little bit more of a tip on here. I'm also gonna grab a kneaded eraser and a hard eraser, because I might find it helpful to have that as I clean this up. So I've got my kneaded eraser, fresh, and a hard detail eraser. So back to my drawing. Now I'm starting to think about contour. And so for contour, I'm thinking about the line quality, right? I'm thinking about really cleaning this up. And again, I have this really beautiful kind of map that only I can see if I want. I could, of course, leave some of these details so that they're visible to other people, but I don't have to if I don't want to. That's why I grab my erasers. And I'm starting to think about the line quality that I want this to have. I'm really giving it a lot more of a clean surface. And again, all that gesture work that I did below is helping me map where I want this to fall a lot more easily than if I were just trying to cold draw this thing, right? So all of this little measuring that I did earlier, or not measuring, but kind of placement that I did earlier, is helping me make a nice, clean, precise drawing. I'm using kind of a combination of slow and fast techniques. And this, for me, is kind of the ticket for making successful observational drawings. I think it's really hard to rely on just one technique. It really takes your brain being willing to go back and forth a little bit in order for your drawing to come alive. So you can see I'm working really on the contour quality of the drawing, but it's allowing me to use what a gesture maps out. Still just using this one pencil, my B pencil, nice kind of neutral, not too dark, not too light, just right pencil. And I can now take my kneaded eraser if I want and kind of clean this up a little bit. I'll probably come back in and do some more work on it. Kneaded eraser, you can drag or you can blot, and of course either way you're going to pick up some graphite that you probably don't want to lose. So I always do this right at this step just to kind of clean it up a little bit, kind of get rid of some of that mapping work. But then I can go back in, right? And so a few of the options that I gave you in the lecture was about how to think about your line qualities, right? So you might want to start to go back and forth with your pencils. Maybe you want to use I've got my 3B here, your 3B, which is a little bit of a darker pencil, and you want to add some line weight to your contour towards the bottom. You can see how that starts to bring your eye towards the bottom of that. Maybe you want to have certain lines feel really nice and thin. So again, I'm gonna grab my F pencil and I'm just gonna very lightly and thinly fill that line in. Maybe I want that line to feel like it's sort of faded towards the back of the object. So everything that's a little bit further away from my eye is light, and everything that's closer is dark. It's almost like bringing, the front of the object into focus, right? So if this stays really like a bit of a darker, I'm gonna clean that up a little bit, a bit of a darker line up here, but the back stays quite light, then I'm bringing my eye towards the front, etc. Right? I could keep going around. Maybe I think this is the most interesting part of the object, so I'm starting to give this a little bit more detail, but I want certain lines to feel lighter on it. So the way I'm doing this is probably a little bit all over the place, right? Because I'm trying to show you that the way you use the line can affect the way the viewer reads the object. And so you want to choose one and kind of experiment with that across the drawing, not use a combination of them all across one drawing. But I do recommend trying different techniques and sort of thinking, hey, what's most interesting to me as an artist? Maybe you want to, cover the whole drawing with some darker lines and just have some very thin lines that show the sides of the objects, right? If I leave these sort of thin over here, but then kind of filter those out, that's another option for you to think about. But you can see that it's all about control and how you use your pencils. Your pencil does not make a single mark. You, the artist, decide what kind of mark your pencil makes. And so as you work on these combination gesture and contour line drawings, I really want you to think about how you, as an artist, want to use your lines. So you'll also make a couple of combination gesture and contour with more than one object. You'll start with one, and then you can do a drawing that combines, say, let's say you've got your face wash and your scissors together. Go ahead and add that into, or make a drawing that combines more than one object together. The last thing I want to mention is that if, as you're drawing, you notice that you are taking graphite, and you can see my side of my hand has graphite all over it, and as you're drawing, you're kind of like putting fingerprints all over it. At the very end of your drawing, number one, make sure that you've cleaned it up. You don't want fingerprints all over it. But the other thing you can do is that as you're drawing, keep a piece of clean paper underneath your hand, so that as your hand is moving across the drawing, you aren't dragging graphite across it. This is really important. One of the things that I'll be looking for is you respecting your drawings and treating them well and making sure that they stay clean and unwrinkled and are looking as good as they can look. So also kind of interesting to look, we have on the left here the contour line drawing that you did, just kind of straight looking at the object, and on the right we have the gesture and the contour, and of course they have different qualities, and I think they both do something very interesting, but I would say that probably the one that combines the two techniques is actually more accurate, more visually accurate. And I think that that's what we're trying to see, is that when we start to use both of these techniques together, we have good luck.